You're sitting in your car in the grocery store parking lot, staring at your phone. You've got the calculator app open, adding up items in your cart before you even walk inside. Milk, bread, chicken, the basics. You're doing the math to see if you can afford it all and still have enough for gas to make it through the week. And you're wondering if you'll ever stop living like this, where every decision feels like a gamble and every unexpected expense feels like the end of the world. Here's what most people think. If I just made more money, this would go away. But that's not how it works. I've watched people double their income and still wake up at 2 a.m. with the same knot in their chest. Because here's what no one tells you. There's a massive difference between having money and living without financial stress. And the gap between those two things, that's where everything changes. Today, I'm going to share 3 truths about life without financial stress that nobody talks about. Not the surface level stuff. Not you'll feel better or you'll sleep easier. I'm talking about the deep psychological shifts that happen when money stops controlling your every move. I'm Mr. Coin, and I've spent far too much time breaking down how financially stable people actually think and what they do differently that no one ever teaches you. So if you're ready to understand what really changes when the weight lifts, hit that subscribe button and let's walk this mile together. Let's be honest about what financial stress actually feels like. It's not just about the numbers in your bank account. It's waking up every morning already tired. It's making decisions based on fear instead of what you actually want. It's saying no to dinner with friends, not because you don't want to go, but because you're mentally calculating whether you can afford the appetizer. Financial stress isn't just an emotion. It's a constant state of emergency. Your nervous system thinks you're being chased by something dangerous every single day. And the worst part, you start to believe that this is just how life is, that this is normal, that everyone feels this way. But here's the trap. When you're stuck in survival mode, you make survival decisions. You take the job that pays more but drains your soul. You avoid opening your bank app for 3 days because you're scared of what you'll see. You snap at the people you love because your emotional bandwidth is already maxed out before breakfast. And society tells you the solution is simple. Buy the new car, take the dream vacation, look successful on Instagram. As if spending money you don't have will somehow make the anxiety go away. It won't. Because what you're actually craving isn't more stuff. It's peace. It's the ability to breathe without that weight on your chest. It's making a decision without immediately thinking, can I afford this? But here's where things get interesting. When that stress finally lifts, when you reach a point where money stops being the first thought in every decision, something unexpected happens. 3 things actually, and nobody tells you about them because most people never get there. Let's talk about the first one. Thing 1, your brain actually works better. Here's the first thing no one tells you. When financial stress disappears, your brain literally starts functioning better. Not metaphorically, not you feel clearer. I mean your actual cognitive capacity increases. Think about your mind like a computer. When you're under constant financial pressure, it's like having 20 browser tabs open at all times. One tab is calculating if you can afford gas this week. Another is replaying that conversation with your landlord. Another is running worst-case scenarios about losing your job. And all of this is happening in the background, all day, every day. That's called cognitive load, and it's destroying your ability to think clearly. There's research on this. People experiencing financial stress show a decrease in cognitive function equivalent to losing 13 IQ points. 13! That's the difference between making a smart long-term decision and making a desperate short-term one. Here's why. When your brain is in survival mode, it pumps out cortisol. Your body thinks you're in danger. And when you're in danger, your brain doesn't care about 5-year plans or creative problem solving. It cares about making it to tomorrow. So you stop seeing opportunities. You stop thinking strategically. You make decisions based on immediate relief instead of long-term benefit. And the cycle continues. But when the financial pressure lifts, when you have a buffer, when the bills are covered, when you're not one emergency away from disaster, something incredible happens. Those 20 tabs start closing, one by one. Your mind gets quiet, not empty, quiet. And in that quiet, you start thinking again. Real thinking, strategic thinking. You start seeing patterns you missed before. You start having ideas again, creative ones, ambitious ones, the kind you had before life beat you down. I've seen this happen to people. They build their first 3 months of expenses in savings, and suddenly they're getting promoted at work. Not because they're working harder, because they're thinking clearer. They're present in meetings instead of mentally calculating their checking account balance. One guy told me, for the first time in 5 years, I could focus on doing my job well instead of just surviving my job. That's what clarity buys you. And clarity is the first dividend your money pays. When your brain isn't spending all its energy on survival, it can finally focus on growth, on strategy, on building something that lasts. You don't need to be rich for this to happen. You just need to not be scared. If this is resonating with you, do me a favor, stay with me. We're just getting started, and the next 2 truths go even deeper. Thing 2, your relationships transform. Here's the second thing nobody tells you. When financial stress disappears, your relationships completely transform. And I don't just mean they get a little better, I mean the entire dynamic shifts. Let's talk about what money stress does to the people you love. Financial problems are one of the leading causes of divorce in this country. Not because people are materialistic, but because money stress is corrosive. It turns partners into adversaries. It makes every conversation a negotiation. It replaces intimacy with resentment. Here's the truth no one wants to say out loud. Money problems aren't really about money. They're about trust. They're about control. They're about the fear that you're failing the people who depend on you. When you're financially stressed, every purchase your partner makes feels like a threat. Every dinner out feels like a referendum on your self-worth. You start keeping score. You start hiding things. You stop being vulnerable because vulnerability feels like weakness and you can't afford to be weak right now. And it's not just romantic relationships, it's friendships too. When you're broke, you start avoiding people, not because you don't love them, but because every invitation feels like a financial test you're going to fail. You make excuses, you ghost plans, and slowly, quietly, you isolate yourself because it's easier to admit you can't afford to keep up. Even your relationship with yourself gets poisoned. You start believing you're not good enough, that you're irresponsible, that everyone else has it figured out and you're the only one drowning. But here's what changes when the financial pressure lifts. First, the fights stop. I don't mean you never disagree, I mean the money fights stop. The ones where you're not really angry about the coffee, you're angry about the fear. When there's a buffer in the account, purchases stop feeling like betrayals. Decisions become collaborative instead of defensive. And second, your friendships become real again. You can say yes to dinner without that knot in your stomach. You can be generous without keeping a mental tally of who owes what. And here's the paradox. You actually become more generous when you're not desperate, because generosity from abundance feels good. Generosity from scarcity feels like self-destruction. And third, this is the big one. You stop performing. Think about how much energy you spend trying to look like you have it together. The outfit you bought to look successful. The car you're still paying off because you needed to project status. The vacation you put on a credit card because everyone else was going and you couldn't be the one who stayed home. When financial stress disappears, you stop caring about the performance. You stop needing external validation because you have internal security. And that's when your relationships become authentic. You can admit you don't know something. You can ask for help. You can show up as yourself instead of the version of yourself you think will be acceptable. One woman told me, once I paid off my debt, I realized I'd been pretending to be someone else for years. And the moment I stopped, my real friends stayed and the fake ones faded.
and I was fine with it. That's freedom. Not the freedom to buy whatever you want, the freedom to be whoever you are. Your relationships are like plants. They can't grow in toxic soil. Financial stress is toxic soil, and the moment you remove it, everything starts growing again. Trust deepens, conversations get real, love stops feeling conditional. Money doesn't buy happiness, but financial stress absolutely destroys it. And when that stress lifts, you get to find out who you really are and who really loves you. If you're still here, I appreciate you. Seriously. We're about to talk about the deepest shift of all. But before we do, make sure you're subscribed because this is the kind of content that changes how you see everything.
Thing 3. You stop performing and start living. Here's the third truth, and it's the one that hits hardest. Life without financial stress isn't about having more. It's about being yourself. Let me explain what I mean. Most people think financial freedom is about being able to buy anything you want. A bigger house, a nicer car, better vacations. And sure, those things are nice. But that's not what changes your life. What changes your life is this. When money stops being a crisis, you stop performing success and start living your actual life. Think about how much of your energy goes into looking okay, the image you maintain at work, the lifestyle you fake on social media, the version of yourself you present because you're terrified someone will see the truth, that you're barely holding on. You know what the real flex is? Not spending more, worrying less. Here's what I've learned. There are two types of freedom: freedom from and freedom for. Freedom from is what most people chase first. Freedom from debt, freedom from bills, freedom from the panic that comes with an unexpected expense. And that's important. That's the foundation. But it's not the destination. Freedom for, that's the real transformation. Freedom for means you stop making decisions based on fear and start making them based on what actually matters to you. It means you can take the job that pays less but feeds your soul because you're not desperate. It means you can say no to things that don't serve you without worrying about burning bridges. It means you get to choose your life instead of surviving it. I watched a friend go through this shift. He spent 10 years climbing the corporate ladder, making good money, hating every second. But he couldn't leave because he had debt, a mortgage, car payments. He was trapped. Then he paid everything off, built 6 months of expenses and savings. And you know what he did? He quit. Took a job teaching, something he'd always wanted to do, made half the money. And for the first time in a decade, he was happy. Not because teaching is better than corporate work, but because he chose it. It wasn't forced by fear, it was guided by purpose. That's the shift. When financial stress disappears, your inner voice gets loud again. The one that knows what you actually want. The one that got drowned out by bills and anxiety and the noise of just trying to survive. And here's the thing that surprised me most. The small joys come back. Reading for pleasure. Taking a walk without feeling guilty that you're not being productive. Sleeping through the night. Laughing without that undercurrent of dread. It's like you've been wearing armor for years, and suddenly you get to take it off. And you realize how heavy it was. Life without financial stress doesn't mean you never have problems. It means your problems are real problems, not money problems disguised as life problems. You argue with your partner about real things, not about money. You stress about meaningful challenges at work, not whether you'll make rent. You worry about your kids' well-being, not whether you can afford their medicine. And that shift from survival to purpose, that's where life actually begins. And here's the truth that no one tells you. Money was never the goal. Peace of mind was. The ability to make choices that honor who you really are. The freedom to be yourself without apology. You don't need to be rich to feel safe. You just need to be stable. And stability isn't a number, it's a feeling. The feeling that you're going to be okay. That an unexpected expense isn't a catastrophe. That your worth isn't tied to your bank balance. The journey to financial peace isn't about reaching a destination. It's about becoming someone who no longer needs to run. So let's bring this together.
3 things no one tells you about life without money stress. 1. Your brain works better. The cognitive fog lifts. You start thinking strategically instead of reactively. Clarity becomes your competitive advantage. 2. Your relationships transform. The fights stop. The performance ends. You connect with people authentically because you're no longer scared. Love becomes real again. And 3, you stop performing and start living. Your life becomes yours. Your choices reflect your values instead of your fears. You rediscover joy in the small things because you're not drowning anymore. These changes don't happen overnight. Financial peace is a journey, not a destination, 1 mile at a time. And here's what matters. These shifts don't require you to be rich. They don't require a 6-figure income or a trust fund or winning the lottery. They require something simpler and harder. They require you to build a buffer between you and disaster, to break the paycheck-to-paycheck cycle, to create space where decisions can be made with intention instead of panic. For some people, that number is $3,000 in savings. For others, it's $10,000. For others, it's just paying off the credit card so they stop compounding the stress. The number doesn't matter as much as the feeling of, I'm going to be okay. Because here's the secret. The goal was never wealth. The goal was dignity, choice, peace. The goal was becoming someone who doesn't wake up at 2 a.m. calculating rent money. And if you're still in the middle of it, if you're still fighting, still grinding, still wondering if it's ever going to get better, I want you to hear this. You're not behind. You're just on a different mile. Every person who's reached financial peace walked through exactly where you are right now. The fear, the exhaustion, the doubt, and they kept walking anyway. Not because they were special, but because they understood something fundamental. Progress doesn't require perfection. It just requires direction. 1 mile at a time. Look, I know financial stress feels permanent when you're in it, like it's just part of who you are now. But it's not. The person you become when that stress lifts, that's who you really are. Everything else was just survival mode. And the beautiful thing is, the journey to get there teaches you just as much as the destination. Every dollar saved teaches you discipline. Every debt paid builds your confidence. Every choice made with intention instead of fear rewires how you see yourself. So if you're ready to start walking this path, if you're ready to understand money instead of fear it, hit that subscribe button, turn on notifications, because every video on this channel is designed to move you 1 mile closer to financial peace. And check out the video on screen right now. It's going to show you exactly where to start, no matter where you are today. I'm Mr. Coin, and remember, progress happens 1 mile at a time. You don't need to sprint, you just need to start walking. Let's do this together.